What's up, guys? I hope you're well. Today we're checking in on some kind of breaking news. We were checking in the real reason Daniel Ricciardo is making a shock F1 comeback. Whoa, shocking. Let's get into it, shall we?
Daniel Ricciardo is making a shock return to the Formula 1 grid, replacing Nick DeVries at AlphaTauri with immediate effect. But Ricciardo will not settle for just driving for Red Bull's sister team again, and his reason for agreeing to this will be because he has something much bigger in mind. This news emerged on the day Ricciardo got back behind the wheel of a proper Red Bull F1 car, driving its 2023 RB19 in a tyre test at Silverstone, and the Australian's real target is clear. This is a massive piece of F1 news, and if you like to keep up with all the big topics in F1 and find out the key details behind the headlines, then consider hitting that subscribe button at any time while you're watching this video, because we'd love to see you around here more often.
Okie dokie.
Ricciardo's back in the Red Bull fold this year on an enforced sabbatical from racing after leaving his McLaren deal early and finding out that none of the available seats for this year interested him. As Red Bull's third driver, his on-track work is limited. He's mainly doing commercial stuff and driving on the simulator while acting as a reserve driver at a few Grand Prix. But this time off has rejuvenated Ricciardo, who was desperate to get back on the grid, and what he really wants is a top car again. Ideally, that would be Red Bull, and Ricciardo recently admitted that desire publicly. But Max Verstappen's place is fixed indefinitely, given he's the team's star asset, and Sergio Perez is under contract next year. So Ricciardo's looking at a long-winded, long-shot route instead. The silly season has claimed its first casualty from within the Red Bull camp, as Nick DeVries has lost his AlphaTauri seat. Ricciardo has pushed for that drive because it's his best chance of emphatically proving himself to Red Bull. You might think it's strange he's going back to where it all began, with apologies to HRT, and letting his career come full circle. But Ricciardo recently admitted he would be willing to do it if there's at least a chance it could lead to a proper Red Bull drive.
Maybe Perez's ride? Who knows?
Ultimately, Ricciardo has to be in an F1 car to impress,
won't be Max's,
whether
that's
Red
for
Bull
sure.
or someone else. Now he will be for the rest of this season, starting from the Hungarian Grand Prix. But Ricciardo's really looking ahead to 2024 and beyond with Red Bull in mind. What Ricciardo must prove this year is that he is not a lost cause post-McLaren. That had already started with some encouraging simulator work for Red Bull and has apparently continued with a strong run in Tuesday's tyre test. Red Bull has been adamant that it isn't planning for a Ricciardo return, but it's picked him to replace DeVries instead of giving the drive to its junior driver Liam Lawson for a reason. Ricciardo's a great commercial option, is more of a known quantity than Lawson, who is impressing out in Japan where he's fighting for the Super Formula title. Maybe there's more to be said about Red Bull's apparent lack of faith in its own emerging talent, but it seems that what Red Bull thinks it can get out of Ricciardo now is a relatively low-risk, high-reward replacement for a driver who was underperforming. And maybe, just maybe, it's given Ricciardo a hint that if he does exceptionally well, the door to Red Bull racing isn't permanently closed. But what Red Bull has in mind for Ricciardo's AlphaTauri move and what Ricciardo will be aiming to achieve don't have to be the same thing right now. All that matters to Ricciardo is that he's got back onto the grid. What he does with that chance will be a huge factor in what might follow.
That's a huge opportunity for him, that's for sure.
Any conversation about Red Bull's driver lineup across its two teams and Ricciardo's prospect must inevitably involve Sergio Perez. The timing of Ricciardo's return to the grid could not be worse for Perez given his current form. He's struggling and has failed to make Q3 5 races in a row. All the while Verstappen continues to dominate in the same car, which is clearly the class of the field by some margin. Checo's latest qualifying setbacks have been particularly poor. 3 track limits offences in Q2 in Austria, losing all 3 laps and having to start the Grand Prix 15th, and getting knocked out in Q1 at Silverstone after doing a poor job in a late 1-lap shootout after a red flag.
That stinks. Sounds like Perez is going bye-bye soon.
In Austria, which marked a clear shift in how it has previously shrugged off Perez's underachievements, although the public votes of confidence have endured in both weekends. Red Bull Racing team boss Christian Horner has said emphatically it would be wrong to suggest Perez could be replaced. He is under contract for next season after all. In fact, in Austria, Horner made it emphatically clear that any talk otherwise is wide of the mark. Then at Silverstone, he reiterated Perez had the team's full support. Right now, Perez isn't costing the team anything except a few extra trophies and a few more points. Verstappen keeps winning and both championships are secure already. But long term, Red Bull needs to be sure this doesn't continue. At the British Grand Prix, where Perez had a low-key recovery to 6th, he said he knew he had the backing of Red Bull's hierarchy and couldn't care less about any speculation over his future and whether Ricciardo was a threat. But the bare facts are that Perez is barely second in the championship in the best car by some distance and now has just 1 podium in 5 races. Ricciardo will inevitably see his ongoing struggles as the potential prizing open of the door to a Red Bull racing seat again. That is the only reason he will have accepted an AlphaTauri drive in the middle of this season, getting back into a lower midfield car that has been woefully uncompetitive, having said several times he is only interested in a top seat.
It's true.
Red Bull has dropped or swapped drivers across its teams 4 times in the last 7 years, with DeVries the latest victim. DeVries was signed by Red Bull to partner Yuki Tsunoda at AlphaTauri in place of Alpine-bound Pierre Gasly, but he wasn't the team's first choice.
Gasly.
DeVries only emerged as an unlikely contender after Red Bull found out IndyCar race winner Colton Herta was not eligible for a super license. At the same time, DeVries made a surprise point-scoring debut at the Italian Grand Prix, where he was called up to replace Alex Albon at Williams on the Saturday morning. That performance impressed Red Bull Motorsport advisor Helmut Marko so much, he basically decided there and then that the Formula 2 and Formula E champion was the man to sign, over the likes of outgoing Haas driver Mick Schumacher or any of Red Bull's own juniors. It was an irrational hire and one Red Bull clearly regrets. Behaving so impulsively based on a single race is nonsensical, and it's pretty ludicrous that a modern F1 team can have such key decisions determined in this knee-jerk way.
Right, yeah.
DeVries wasn't an unknown quantity to the F1 pit lane. He'd been on the junior ladder for some time and had completed plenty of testing mileage in various cars. The fact nobody had ever picked him up, either after his F2 or Formula E titles, suggested the general feeling was that he wasn't quite up to the level required for F1. For Red Bull to disregard all of that to sign DeVries almost on a whim was bad enough, but to drop him partway through the season is baffling, regardless of the fact DeVries has struggled against Tsunoda. Red Bull has nothing to gain by stringing him along until the end of the year and maybe replacing him with Ricciardo then anyway, but the lack of serious opportunity to turn the tide means DeVries has been on a hiding to nothing.
Wow, Yuki's done a hell of a lot better than him.
What did Red Bull and Marko think was going to happen?
Dang.
How out of kilter with reality was the process, or the expectation that a rookie, being an admittedly comprehensive second best to third-year Tsunoda, is so bad that he deserves to be axed before the summer break?
Right.
AlphaTauri's team boss, Franz Tost, believes a driver needs multiple years to properly adjust, so clearly this decision is being made against his wishes, much like the decision to sign DeVries in the first place. And again, that interference comes into focus. This saga has also exposed yet again that Red Bull's vast array of junior drivers aren't worthy of a junior team seat in F1, at least in the view of those in charge. Red Bull has now twice passed over its own younger talents to fill a spot in its sister team. Lawson was snubbed a year ago and again now. And even if this instance is a result of Red Bull wanting to let him see out his Super Formula title bid, or because it feels Ricciardo needs closer evaluation, it's still a vote of no confidence in the junior program to some degree. In years gone by, these mid-season replacements would involve an early promotion to F1 for a promising Red Bull junior. Lawson was previously rumoured to be ahead of Ricciardo in the queue for any sudden vacancy, and he'll be hoping that his chance will still come in the not-too-distant future. But both of these elements, the interference and the fact the Red Bull driver conveyor belt has spluttered to a halt, are serious problems. How long has it been now since the once revered Red Bull Junior program brought a bona fide superstar into F1? Ricciardo's return is a great story and one that we'll follow with serious interest. If this works, it will be to his and AlphaTauri's and maybe Red Bull's benefit. But Red Bull needs it to go a whole lot better than the sorry saga its last driver decision created. Thanks for watching this video. We really appreciate those of you who stick with us all the way to the end. If you haven't already, make sure you let us know what you think of Ricciardo's F1 comeback.
Yeah, let me know what you think about Ricciardo coming back. I'm excited. What was it? Pardon me, a week ago? Oh, he's probably going to NASCAR. Because I heard a couple rumors. But I'm glad he's staying in F1. He seems like he's better off in F1. And he's got a massive opportunity ahead of him. Joining the Red Bull sister team. So we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he and Perez swap seats next season, and it's the Max and Daniel show. And let me tell you, I believe there's going to be a lot of fireworks if that happens. I think Red Bull is going to just absolutely dominate the entire field next year. Let me know what you think about that. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. Stay safe, and don't forget to wash your hands. Bye.